Greetings. We're going to take a quick look at what can be done with Aurelia in a non-traditional routing web application. So most applications have a routing structure where there is currently one state, and in this case we actually have mini states running at the same time up here. So this is something that you might have seen in a desktop application, but now we can build the same kinds of things with the 3D rendered graphics that you see here in a web application. So you can see that the responsiveness is really good on the performance here. We can do all kinds of interesting things. This is going to drape a digital satellite image over a digital elevation model, and so then you can go in and zoom in here. This is the Matterhorn, and you can see that it's pretty amazing what you can do now in a browser. So this interface actually though provides a couple of things. So in the left hand side there's a navigation pane, and the kinds of things you might do from over here. These are the top 10 wind farms. If you clicked on one, it would potentially launch a tab over here, and I'm just simulating that with a little dialog box. If we want to share the screen, so let's say that we wanted to look at the windmills, and then we wanted to also look at this tree map, what we can do is actually send this to the bottom part of the screen, and you can see it's collapsed down here, but if we expand it, then we can see our tree map, and then we can interact with our tree map down here. Just while we're looking at our visual up here, and we can still interact with this and zoom around. Let's move out a little bit so you can kind of see where we are. This is offshore Louisiana. What are some of the other things? This is just a standard globe view. If we take a look at that, we can zoom in, can rotate off the plane so that we get more of a satellite view. We can zoom in and out and rotate around on the globe and really see any part of the globe that we're interested in. Some of the things that this can do that are interesting is these views are HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and they can be loaded from any URL. So in this case, we're actually pulling this view from a different location on GitHub. What that allows us to do is we can provide a system that comes with a number of different views, but a potential customer could extend the system by adding additional views that they create, and they're then registered with the system and then launched into this interface so that it still appears as a single seamless application to the users. And that's something that can also be done with these map layers. So if a customer wanted to add their own internal map layers to this map, that can be done as well. So the ESRI map that we're using here, the ESRI globe, can pull layers from a number of different URLs and compose them together into a single map view. So this is a fairly powerful concept. The basic workflow that we're eventually working towards is being able to draw a box on the map, see a catalog of all the things over on the left that were selected, wells, seismic lines, windmills, leases, whatever it might be, and then be able to go to registered views that know how to deal with lists of things. So an example with a list of wells, I might go to a decline curve view, or a wellbore diagram view, or a scout ticket view. So I could basically navigate to any number of different kinds of views for that given selected list. So that's the basic idea. And again, the implementation underneath is very clean and elegant using Aurelia. Basically, if we take a look, the views that we were looking at are in 3 different lists. There's a nav list, which is the ones on the left in the nav pane, and we only had one there. There's the main, which is the top panel, and then alt, which is the lower panel. And each of those areas has a list of view instances, which is just a data structure. If we take a look at, let's see, we can right click on this, so go to definition, and we can see the actual view instance class here, but it basically has things like a title that go in the tab, and the pane type is alt, main, or nav, telling it where it should show itself. View template, which is the HTML, view model, which is the JavaScript behind the HTML, a view state, which is the model or the initial state of the view, and then some other, basically just data that we can use. And that's really all there is to a view instance. And again, the shell view model holds an array of each of those view instances, and then the shell HTML just does a repeat .4 over each of the elements in that. If we look here, it does a compose over each of those data structures in the list, and it sets the view model, and the model to the various properties in that view instance. And then it shows the one that is the active one, and that is changed when you click on the tab up here in the instance toolbar. So the instance toolbar is also quite simple. It's really just a button group, and each one has an input. It basically says whether it's the one that's selected, the plug icon, the title, and then an up or a down arrow, depending on whether it's in the alt area or the main area, and then an X, which just removes it. So we move it if you hit the arrow, we remove it if you hit the X. And we can see that if we go back to, that's the X. So if we want to remove that one completely, we just click there. If we want to move it down, we click the down arrow and it moves it. And the code for moving it is also quite simple. You can see that these are nice, small, encapsulated functions. So this view model for the toolbar just has a move and a remove. And all it's doing is manipulating the list of view instances. So here we have splice to remove it from the list. And then if it was the one that had to focus, then it sets the focus, sets the active view instance to the first one. And then in the case of move, if it was set to alt, we move it to main. If it was set to main, we move it to alt. And then we launch it into that area, which then gives it the focus. And really that's all there is to it. In the case of the remove item, we just splice it out of the list and then it's gone. So you can see it's quite powerful what you can do with fairly simple setup using Aurelia.